Welcome back, Rare Coin Insider. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out what seems like an ordinary old penny, and realizing that it could potentially be worth a life-changing amount of money. A coin so small yet surrounded by stories of unbelievable value, mystery, and collector obsession. The 1 cent USA 1980 coin is one of those fascinating pieces that quietly circulates through hands every day, often ignored, often underestimated, yet deeply rooted in history and packed with details that most people never take the time to notice. At first glance, it appears to be just another copper-colored coin, something you might toss aside or overlook, but when you begin to truly examine it, a whole world opens up, filled with historical significance, design artistry, production secrets, and the intriguing possibility that some versions of this coin could be worth far more than their face value. To fully understand why the 1980 penny has captured the attention of collectors and treasure hunters alike, you need to step back in time and look at the broader history of the United States 1 cent coin. The penny has been part of American currency since the late 18th century, evolving through multiple designs and compositions over the years. By 1980, the penny had already settled into one of its most recognizable forms, featuring the portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, a design that had been introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of his birth. This made it the first regular issue U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure, and over the decades, it became one of the most iconic images in American coinage. The 1980 penny continues this tradition, carrying forward the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse side. The portrait, originally designed by Victor David Brenner, shows Lincoln facing to the right, with a calm and dignified expression that reflects his legacy as one of the most respected presidents in U.S. history. Above his head, the word "Liberty" is inscribed, while the year 1980 appears clearly stamped to the right. Just above Lincoln's shoulder, you'll find the motto, "In God We Trust," a phrase that has been a standard feature on U.S. coins for many years. These elements together create a design that is both simple and deeply symbolic, representing the values and history of the nation. Now, if you turn the coin over, the reverse side reveals another classic design that remained in use for decades. You'll see the Lincoln Memorial, an architectural tribute to the same president featured on the front. This design, introduced in 1959, replaced the earlier wheat ears design and marked a significant shift in the visual identity of the penny. The Lincoln Memorial is depicted in remarkable detail for such a small coin, and if you look closely enough, you can even make out a tiny representation of Lincoln seated inside the memorial itself. This level of detail is one of the reasons collectors appreciate these coins so much, as it demonstrates the craftsmanship involved in their creation. Above the memorial, the words, "United States of America," curve along the top edge, while the phrase, "E pluribus unum," appears just below it. At the bottom, the denomination, 1 cent, is boldly displayed. Every element on this coin has been carefully arranged to convey both national pride and artistic precision, making it much more than just a piece of currency. But beyond its design, one of the most important aspects of the 1980 penny is its physical composition and weight. This coin was minted during a time when pennies were still primarily made of copper, specifically composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc. This gives the coin its characteristic reddish-brown color and a solid, slightly heavier feel compared to modern pennies. The standard weight of a 1980 penny is approximately 3.11 grams, and this detail is crucial because any variation in weight could indicate something unusual, such as a minting error or a different metal composition, both of which can significantly increase a coin's value. Speaking of minting, the 1980 penny was produced at multiple U.S. mint facilities, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins minted in Philadelphia typically do not carry a mint mark, while those from Denver feature a small D below the date. San Francisco coins, often struck as proof coins for collectors, carry an S mint mark. These small letters may seem insignificant, but they play a major role in determining a coin's rarity and value. Certain mint marks, combined with specific conditions or errors, can make a coin far more desirable to collectors. Now, here's where things start to get truly interesting. While millions upon millions of 1980 pennies were produced, making them very common in general circulation, not all of them are equal. Some coins from this year have unique characteristics, minting errors, or exceptional conditions that can make them extremely valuable. You may have heard claims that a 1980 penny is worth $111 million, and while that number is more myth than reality, it does highlight the excitement and curiosity surrounding rare coins. In truth, no standard 1980 penny has ever sold for anywhere near that amount, but certain rare error coins or perfectly preserved examples can still fetch impressive prices in the collector's market. For instance, coins with double die errors, off-center strikes, or unusual planchet issues can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on their condition and rarity. Additionally, coins that have been graded as mint state with no visible wear can command higher prices, especially if they come from specific mints or have unique features. Collectors often search through rolls of pennies, hoping to find that one rare piece that stands out from the rest, turning a simple coin into a valuable collectible. As you begin to explore the world of the 1980 penny, you start to realize that its value is not just about money, but about history, craftsmanship, and the thrill of discovery. Every coin tells a story, from the moment it was struck at the mint to the countless hands it has passed through over the years. And sometimes, hidden among the ordinary, there are extraordinary finds waiting to be uncovered. And this is just the beginning of the journey into understanding the true significance of the 1981 cent coin, because as we go deeper, we will uncover more about its rarity factors, hidden errors, collector demand, and the real truth behind its market value. As we continue deeper into the world of the 1981 cent coin, it becomes clear that the true intrigue lies not in the ordinary examples that pass unnoticed through everyday transactions, but in the rare variations and subtle imperfections that transform a simple penny into a collector's dream. These tiny differences, often invisible to the untrained eye, are what fuel the excitement of coin hunting, because within millions of nearly identical coins, there can exist a handful that are dramatically different in ways that matter immensely to collectors. One of the most fascinating aspects to explore is the concept of minting errors, which occur during the production process at the U.S. Mint. These errors can happen for a variety of reasons, including misaligned dies, incorrect metal blanks, or mechanical issues in the striking process. For the 1980 penny, several types of errors have been documented, each with its own level of rarity and desirability. Among the most talked about are double die errors, where the coin appears to have a slightly doubled image, particularly noticeable in the lettering or date. This happens when the die used to strike the coin has a misalignment during its creation, causing the design to be impressed twice in slightly different positions. Another type of error that captures attention is the off-center strike, where the coin design is not properly aligned with the metal blank. This can result in a portion of the coin being blank while the rest shows the design shifted to one side. The more dramatic the misalignment, the more valuable the coin can become, especially if the date is still visible, as that confirms its origin. Collectors are particularly drawn to these kinds of errors because they are visually striking and clearly different from standard coins. Then, there are planchet errors, which occur when the metal blank itself is flawed before it is struck. In rare cases, a 1980 penny might have been struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or might contain impurities in the metal composition. Since the standard composition for a 1980 penny is 95% copper and 5% zinc. Any deviation from this can be significant. For example, if a coin were somehow struck on a lighter or heavier planchet, its weight would differ from the expected 3.11 grams, immediately signaling that something unusual has occurred. This is why serious collectors often use precise digital scales when examining coins, as even a small variation in weight can indicate a potentially valuable error. Beyond errors, condition plays an equally critical role in determining the value of a 1980 penny. Coins are graded on a scale that ranges from heavily worn to perfect, uncirculated condition. The highest grades, often referred to as mint state, indicate that the coin has never been used in circulation and retains its original luster, sharp details, and flawless surfaces. A 1980 penny in average circulated condition might only be worth its face value, but the same coin in pristine condition could be worth significantly more, especially if it has been professionally graded and certified. Professional grading services evaluate coins based on strict criteria, examining factors such as surface quality, strike sharpness, and overall appearance. A coin graded MS65 or higher is considered to be in excellent condition, and as the grade increases, so does the potential value. For the 1980 penny, high-grade examples from certain mints, particularly those with fewer surviving pristine coins, can attract strong interest in the market. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint, identified by the S. Mint mark, are especially sought after because they were produced with extra care, resulting in a mirror-like finish and sharper details. Now, let's address the claim that a 1980 penny could be worth $111 million. This figure has circulated widely in online content and has sparked curiosity among many people, but it's important to approach such claims with a realistic perspective. There is no verified record of any 1980 pennies selling for anywhere near that amount. The highest prices ever achieved by rare pennies typically involve extremely unique coins with historical significance, such as the famous 1943 copper penny or the 1909 South VDB Lincoln Center, which are known for their rarity and specific historical context. However, the idea of a penny being worth millions is not entirely without precedent in the broader world of coin collecting. Certain coins have indeed sold for extraordinary amounts due to their rarity, condition, and historical importance. What makes the 1980 penny interesting is not that it has reached such values, but that it holds the potential for discovery. Within the vast number of coins produced, there could still be undiscovered errors or exceptionally preserved examples that might surprise collectors in the future. Another factor that adds to the allure of the 1980 penny is the transition period in U.S. coinage that occurred shortly after its production. In 1982, the composition of the penny changed from primarily copper to a zinc core with a thin copper coating. This means that the 1980 penny belongs to the final era of the heavier, copper-rich coins, which some collectors prefer due to their intrinsic metal content and historical significance. This distinction alone can make pre-1982 pennies more appealing to certain buyers, especially those who appreciate the traditional composition. Collectors often search through large quantities of pennies, a practice known as coin roll hunting, in hopes of finding valuable pieces. The 1980 penny is frequently included in these searches because of its potential for errors and its place in the timeline of U.S. coinage. While the majority of these coins will be common, the excitement comes from the possibility that one might stand out, whether due to an unusual feature, exceptional condition, or a rare minting mistake. Market value for the 1980 penny can vary widely depending on these factors. A typical circulated coin might only be worth 1 cent, but an uncirculated coin in high grade could be worth a few dollars, and rare error coins can reach into the hundreds or even thousands. The market is driven by collector demand, rarity, and condition, and prices can fluctuate over time as new discoveries are made and interest levels change. What truly makes the 1980 penny captivating is the combination of accessibility and mystery. It is a coin that almost anyone can find, yet it holds the possibility of hidden value. This dual nature keeps collectors engaged and encourages people to look more closely at the coins they encounter every day. Because sometimes, the difference between an ordinary coin and an extraordinary one comes down to the smallest detail, a slight doubling of a letter, a tiny shift in alignment, or a barely noticeable variation in weight. And as we move forward, the story becomes even more compelling, because there are deeper insights into collector behavior, rare auction records, and the hidden psychology behind why people are willing to pay significant amounts for something as small as a penny. When you start looking at the 1981-cent coin through the eyes of serious collectors, the conversation shifts away from simple face value or even basic error varieties and moves into something much more psychological, almost obsessive in nature. Coin collecting is not just about money, it is about rarity perception, emotional attachment, historical connection, and the thrill of discovery. And the 1980 penny sits right in the middle of this fascinating world, where ordinary objects are constantly being reevaluated for hidden worth. One of the most important ideas in numismatics, the study and collection of coins, is that value is never fixed. It changes depending on demand, rarity, condition, and sometimes even trends in the collecting community. A coin that is ignored for decades can suddenly gain attention if collectors start noticing a pattern, an error type, or a shortage in high-grade examples. This is why even a relatively modern coin like the 1980 penny continues to be examined so closely. People are not just looking at what it is today, but what it could become tomorrow in terms of collector interest. A major factor influencing the perceived value of the 1980 penny is population survival in high grades. While millions were minted, very few remain in truly flawless condition. Most entered circulation immediately and suffered wear, scratches, corrosion, or cleaning damage over time. Coins that survive in near-perfect condition become significantly more desirable because they represent a small fraction of the original mintage. In collector grading terms, even a difference between MS63 and MS67 can mean a dramatic difference in price, simply because higher-grade coins are exponentially rarer. Another important aspect is the role of certification agencies. Third-party grading services evaluate coins under magnification and assign them an official grade, sealing them in protective holders. This process removes doubt and builds trust in the marketplace. For the 1980 penny, a certified high-grade specimen or a verified mint error can gain far more attention than an uncertified coin, even if both appear similar at first glance. Collectors and investors rely heavily on these certifications to avoid counterfeits, cleaning damage, or misidentified varieties. Now, when we talk about market activity, auctions play a huge role in shaping the story around coins like the 1980 penny. While most examples sell for very small amounts, rare error coins or exceptional grades occasionally appear in auctions and spark bidding interest. In these moments, emotion often drives prices higher than expected, especially when two or more collectors compete for the same piece. This competitive environment is one of the reasons people sometimes believe in extremely high valuations, like millions of dollars, because auction excitement can sometimes exaggerate perceived worth in online discussions. Social media and online marketplaces have also contributed to the myth and mystery surrounding coins like the 1980 penny. Viral videos, misleading thumbnails, and exaggerated claims often suggest that common coins are worth extraordinary sums. Statements like, "This penny is worth $111 million," are usually not based on verified sales, but they do capture attention and encourage people to start checking their change. This has both positive and negative effects. On one hand, it increases interest in coin collecting. On the other hand, it spreads unrealistic expectations about common coins. To understand the real value spectrum of a 1980 penny, it helps to break it down into realistic categories. At the lowest level, circulated coins with normal wear are worth face value. Then, there are slightly better preserved coins that might sell for small premiums, often just a few cents to $1 depending on condition. After that come uncirculated coins, which can range from a few dollars upward if certified in high grades. Then, there are error coins, which can vary widely depending on rarity and visual impact, sometimes reaching tens, hundreds, or in very rare cases more. But the true, high-value tier is extremely narrow. It requires a combination of perfect conditions, rare mint errors, and strong collector demand all aligning at the same time. Without this combination, even a 1980 penny in excellent condition will not reach extreme values. This is an important reality check in coin collecting, because while the dream of finding a life-changing coin is exciting, the actual probability is extremely low. Still, collectors continue to search, and that search itself is part of the appeal. Coin roll hunting, estate finds, and inherited collections all create opportunities for discovery. Many people have found surprisingly valuable coins simply because they took the time to look closely at something others ignored. The 1980 penny remains part of this culture of possibility, where every coin is examined with curiosity rather than assumption. Another interesting angle is the metal content discussion. Since the 1980 penny is still part of the pre-1982 copper-heavy composition era, some collectors, and even casual hobbyists pay attention to its intrinsic metal value. Although the difference is not extreme in most cases, it adds another layer of interest, especially for those who study the transition of U.S. coinage materials. This transition period is often viewed as historically significant because it marks the end of an era of mostly copper pennies and the beginning of cost-saving changes in mint production. Collectors also pay attention to mint mark distribution and survival rates. While Philadelphia coins are generally the most common, Denver and San Francisco issues can have slightly different availability in high grades or proof conditions. Proof coins, especially those from San Francisco, are struck using polished dies and specially prepared blanks, resulting in sharper details and mirror-like surfaces. These coins were not meant for circulation, which is why they often survive in better condition and attract collector attention. As we continue exploring deeper into the 1980 penny story, it becomes clear that its true significance is not about a guaranteed multi-million-dollar value, but about the intersection of history, rarity perception, collector psychology, and the constant hope of finding something extraordinary in something ordinary. This is what keeps the story alive, and what leads us into even more detailed insights about rare varieties, known auction records, and the real truth behind the most valuable Lincoln cents ever discovered. As we move into the final part of this deep exploration of the 1981 cent coin, it becomes even more important to separate excitement from reality, because this is where many myths tend to grow. Over time, coins like the 1980 penny become surrounded by internet stories, exaggerated claims, and viral videos that suggest extreme values without solid evidence. The idea of a penny being worth $111 million is one of those claims that captures attention instantly, but in real verified numismatic history, no standard 1980 Lincoln cent has ever sold for anything close to that figure. Still, the reason such stories spread so widely is because they tap into something very real: the hope that something ordinary in your pocket might actually be extraordinary. To understand the true, endgame, value of the 1980 penny, you have to look at the highest confirmed tiers of Lincoln cent collecting in general. The most valuable pennies in U.S. history are not modern common date coins, but extremely rare early mintages, dramatic mint errors, or unique historical pieces that exist in extremely limited numbers. These coins achieved high values because they combined three powerful factors: extreme rarity, strong collector demand, and verifiable historical importance. Without all three working together, even a well-preserved coin remains within a modest price range. The 1980 penny simply does not belong to that ultra-rare category in its standard form. It was produced in massive quantities, with millions entering circulation, meaning supply is overwhelmingly high. In numismatics, high supply almost always limits long-term value unless something unusual reduces that supply dramatically, such as a major minting error that occurred in very small numbers. That is why most 1980 pennies remain everyday coins today, still found in change jars, drawers, and coin rolls across the world. However, what keeps this coin interesting is not fantasy value, but realistic discovery potential. There are still small possibilities that certain 1980 pennies could show unusual characteristics that make them more desirable. For example, double die varieties, while rare, are always closely watched by collectors. These occur when the die used to strike the coin carries a misalignment in its design creation process, producing slightly doubled text or numbers. If a strong and verified example were found, it could attract collector attention and sell for a premium. Another area of interest is die deterioration and minor striking anomalies. Over time, coin dies wear down, and this can produce subtle variations in design sharpness or surface texture. While these are not always highly valuable, advanced collectors sometimes seek out these variations as part of specialized collections. In this way, even a common coin like the 1980 penny can become part of a more complex collecting narrative. The emotional appeal of coins like this also plays a major role in their popularity. Humans are naturally drawn to stories of hidden treasure, unexpected discovery, and financial transformation. A simple penny represents one of the lowest monetary values in circulation, so the idea that it could secretly be worth thousands or millions creates a powerful psychological contrast. This is why so many people are drawn into checking their coins more carefully, hoping to find something overlooked by others. But the real lesson from studying the 1980 penny is not about chasing unrealistic valuations. It is about learning how value actually works in collectibles. Value is built on evidence, rarity, condition, and verified market transactions, not speculation or viral claims. When collectors discover valuable coins, it is usually because they understand what to look for, not because they rely on extreme headlines. Knowledge, patience, and attention to detail matter far more than luck alone. In the broader world of coin collecting, the 1980 penny represents something important: accessibility. Almost anyone can find one. It requires no special tools, no investment, and no background to begin examining it. This accessibility is what keeps the hobby alive and constantly growing. Many professional collectors today started with simple coins like this, learning over time how to identify differences, understand grading, and recognize genuine rarity. As we reach the end of this journey, the 1981 cent coin stands as a reminder that value is not always obvious at first glance. While it will not turn into $1 million treasure in normal circumstances, it still carries historical significance, design artistry, and the potential for small but meaningful discoveries in rare cases. It connects everyday life with the larger world of numismatics in a way that few objects can. So the next time you come across a 1980 penny, instead of dismissing it as insignificant, take a moment to observe it. Look at the date, the mint mark, the condition, and the details in the design. Because while most will remain ordinary, the habit of paying attention is exactly what separates casual observers from true collectors. And in that habit lies the real value, not in a mythical $111 million claim, but in the knowledge, curiosity, and possibility that every coin, no matter how small, has a story worth telling.